Hello Nexians, Max here again to bring you guys now the circuit board crafting tutorial at Wildstar. So, I've started here crafting with tailoring, and circuit board crafting falls under tailoring, outfitter, armor smithing, weapon smithing. They will all use this same basic UI for how you make your gear. Now you've got an overcharge meter down here, and the higher this fills up, the higher chance you're going to have to fail at crafting your gear. So when you go to hit craft, you're going to notice that you need to now, you've got rune slots here, and these are going to give you certain types of stats, like critical hit severity for this one, intensity for this one, and vigor for this one. So depending on which type of stats you want your gear to have, and the level of the gear, this here can have a power core maximum level of 70 to make expert's gear. So I can put in up to level 70 cores, and it just so happens I have some expert capstone power cores here. So now if I put in a core, if I leave everything as it is, you'll see if I leave the stats as they are, I have a 0% chance to fail, and I can just hit craft and I can make this right now. But if I want to change these stats, because intensity is for healers, and I don't like healing. This is going to be some DPS gear, alright? So we're going to switch this intensity for critical hit rating. That looks good, right? So because this here is a logic slot, and so is this, and I've now changed this to a fire stat, this here would basically give me a penalty. You'll see now I have an 8% chance to fail because I've changed it. So if I was to keep this at the same thing, it's 0, but as soon as you change it, you have a penalty of 8%. Now, the better quality core that you guys are using to craft your gear, the higher the quality core, the lower percent chance you'll initially have to fail, which means that you'll be able to increase this if you want. You can increase or decrease these stats. So for something like this, if it is a mismatched socket, this is called a mismatched socket, and you want to increase the stats on it, it's going to add more chance to fail every time that you bump it up versus, say, one that's in the correct slot. So this here would have 13% chance to fail versus 14% chance to fail. And, you know, the more you boost it up, the more it will basically keep adding on. So you can, if you want, decrease this down, give it a 0% chance to fail, but now you'll see that it's undercharged by 4%. So you can undercharge gear, you can basically leave it as is, normal, or you can overcharge gear a certain amount, but only so much before it will basically give you a 0% chance and you cannot craft it. So the maximum that I can overcharge this gear here is 6%. If I want to go too much, it's over and I cannot craft it. 10% will not let me do that. But you notice I can also reduce the stats on something like this. I can reduce the vigor rating, and I can increase the critical hit severity. So now I've jacked up the critical hit rating, the critical hit severity, and I've basically just dropped the third stat, the vigor rating, and I have a 31% chance to fail, but it is overcharged 8%. So depending on how you want your stats to work out, you can tune these up or down with the stats. But if you have a mismatched socket, the penalty for jacking up the stats is going to be higher than on slots that line up properly like this. Now, with your talent points, if you're just starting out, you're going to be starting down here in the novice one, and your tech tree is going to look something like this. Now you can level up your trade the entire way by basically just making, you know, just one item. You could just keep crafting these and it would keep giving you experience towards your trade and level you up, but you wouldn't get any of your talent points. And I highly, highly recommend getting as many of these talent points as soon as you possibly can, which requires crafting X amount of every single item along the tree until you unlock your talent points here, and then start speccing them here to start reducing the cost of your material efficiencies and your failure rates and everything. And this is how I've got my points specced, and I'll give you guys the quick rundown for once you get all your points. This is what I recommend doing. Get material efficiency as soon as you can while you're learning and leveling them up, And then once you've got material efficiency and you've leveled up all your trades, and you actually start and making gear, then spec it like this: superconductivity decreases the failure rate by 10%. Okay, and now that's just an automatic 10% decreased failure rate for everything that we make. So even if it has mismatched sockets, that's going to happen. Trust me, it will. No matter, even if you try to work it around so it prevents these sockets from appearing, you can get doubles. Like you could get potentially 3 earth sockets. Okay, and then you're going to want to change the stats, and it will almost never line up perfectly. So I recommend splitting the difference between superconductivity and field dampening. Take one there, material efficiency, superconductivity, field dampening, okay, material efficiency, and then voltage overclocking for the last two. And field dampening, material efficiency, and then voltage overclocking. Okay, so this will basically give you a 20% decreased failure rate and give you an extra 5% chance to, or 5% overcharge ability. Alright, now signature players will also get 15% decreased failure reduction, and that here, if you notice, signature players, circuit board crafting, 15% overcharge risk reduction. So that's a benefit that signature players will get. And also with the coordinate crafting, they get the 10% increased radius size. So this is how you guys are going to be able to craft your gear, and these rune slots are going to appear randomly every time you hit the craft button, and then you're going to have to tune the stats and tune the meters. And also remember, the quality of core you use will affect your chances of failure, so use the best quality power level core that you possibly can. Alright, so that is the basics of circuit board crafting. And later on, once you guys get up to master and you start wanting to make master level gear, you guys are going to also start to need to do your crafting dailies and stuff to get transducers, because master's gear, other gear will require transducers to make, as well as matrices and things like that. And good thing to note, if you didn't know, material efficiency will reduce the cost of transducers that you need to make, like the master's gear, genetic gear, datascape gear. But also, for almost everything that you're crafting, you're gonna need this stuff, like the wiring and the framework. And for tailors, it's smart thread. And material efficiency will reduce the cost of the thread that you need to make each piece of gear. So when it comes to doing your crafting dailies and even just leveling up your trade, this will make it so much cheaper, not having to buy so much thread and dump so much plat into all of that thread. And the transducers too. You can only do crafting dailies and get so many vouchers per day. Reduce the cost of that as much as you can. Okay, with that point spec right there, alright? So I hope you guys like this little tutorial video. Like it and share it with your friends, and I will have more for you guys later on. Enjoy.